The mysterious roommate. Emma was a university student who had just moved to the bustling city of Springfield to pursue her studies. Excited yet nervous, she decided to rent a small apartment close to her school to make her daily commute easier. As she stepped off the city bus, she quickly dialed the number of Sarah, her online friend who she had met through a university forum. Sarah was going to be her roommate in the cozy apartment they had found together. "Hey, can you text me the address of the apartment again?" "I'm at the bus station now," Emma said with a hint of excitement in her voice. "Got it. Just a moment. The address is 43 Maple Street, smiley face." Emma hung up and waved goodbye to the bus driver, who had kindly dropped her off at the right spot. "Thank you," she called out as she walked toward her new home. As she approached the apartment building, she noticed that, although it was only 9:30 p.m., the streetlights were already dim. Suddenly, she spotted a tall, slender figure running toward her. "Emma! You made it!" Sarah exclaimed, welcoming her inside the dimly lit apartment. "It's dark, isn't it? Does everyone go to bed early around here?" "No, it's just that this place is cheap, so they tend to turn off the lights at night to save electricity." "They barely had enough power to keep the lights on," Sarah replied nonchalantly. "Our neighbor is out for the evening, and the landlord won't be back until tomorrow. Let's get your stuff settled in." Sarah handed her an old rusty key. "This is the only key to our room for now, but I'll get another one made soon." Emma took the key and began unpacking her things from her suitcase. As she pulled out her clothes and books, she suddenly realized she had forgotten to bring her shampoo. "Oh no! I forgot my shampoo. After that long bus ride, I really need to wash my hair." Sarah chuckled. "I rarely wash my hair at home, to be honest. But no worries. If you go down the street, turn left, and keep walking, there's a little convenience store where you can buy some." "Should I go alone? It's pretty dark and quiet around here. I might get lost," Emma said hesitantly. "It's really close. Just be quick. I'll stay here and keep an eye on our stuff." "Just run there and back," Sarah encouraged her. Emma nodded, trying to muster some courage, and stepped out into the night. As she walked, she couldn't shake a feeling of being followed. The sound of footsteps echoed behind her, making her heart race. "Calm down," she whispered to herself as she quickened her pace, attempting to outrun her fear. But the footsteps continued to shadow her. After a few moments of worrying, she finally spotted the old convenience store tucked behind a tree at the end of the street. Relieved, she hurried towards the entrance, calling out to a woman who was resting on a hammock outside. "Excuse me," Emma said softly. The woman's eyes opened slowly, and she squinted at Emma. "New around here, huh?" she asked in a raspy voice. Emma was a bit taken aback by her demeanor but replied, "Yes, I just moved here for school." "How long have you lived here?" The woman ignored Emma's question and changed the subject. "What do you need?" "I just need to buy some shampoo, please," Emma said, trying to keep the conversation light. "Here, take this quickly," the woman said, handing her a small travel pack. "But you should be careful. People living in this area have their share of misfortunes." "Misfortunes? What do you mean?" Emma asked, confused. "Just a warning. You'd be better off moving. This place isn't as safe as you might think," the woman murmured ominously. Emma noted the woman's age and assumed her worries were just typical of an older local. She dismissed the warning and made her way back to the apartment, greeting the woman with a polite smile as she departed. As she walked back, the chilly breeze made Emma shiver, amplifying her sense of unease. Suddenly, a dark silhouette appeared ahead, gradually making its way towards her. The figure's footsteps scraped against the pavement, sending a wave of fear through her. Emma ran as fast as she could, slamming the door behind her as she entered the apartment. She rushed to her room and knocked frantically on Sarah's door. "Sarah! Open up! Quick!" Emma's voice was breathless. "Whoa! Did you see something?" Sarah opened the door, her eyes wide with curiosity. "I swear I felt like someone was watching me," Emma exclaimed, her heart racing in her chest, droplets of sweat forming on her brow. "Really? What happened?" Sarah gestured for Emma to sit down. After catching her breath, Emma took a glass of water from Sarah's hand. I don't know what it was, but it felt like eyes were on me the entire time I walked back. I nearly sprinted all the way here." "All right, you might just be tired. We've just moved, after all," Sarah reassured her, though Emma could see a flicker of concern in her eyes. "Do you think there are ghosts here?" Emma asked, half serious and half joking. "Ghosts? Seriously? Emma, you're being ridiculous. There's no way." Sarah laughed, trying to ease Emma's nerves. "But, if you did see something, it could be someone from our neighborhood. There have been rumors about a strange figure lurking around." "Stop. You're freaking me out even more," Emma interjected, feeling the fear bubble up again. "I just thought I was being silly." "All right, let's not panic. Just be cautious, okay? It's not the safest part of town," Sarah said, her tone turning serious. John, their neighbor from the same building, had joined them. "Did I hear that you guys are feeling uneasy? What's going on?" "All these strange occurrences. Like people being followed or sightings of someone mysterious roaming the area," Sarah said, gesturing at Emma, who nodded in agreement. "Yeah, that's pretty common around here," John replied, looking mildly uninterested. "You just have to keep your wits about you. Watch your back, and you should be okay." Emma turned pale at his nonchalant attitude but nodded nonetheless. As Sarah and John continued their light-hearted banter, Emma couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that pestered her mind. After a while, as the laughter echoed in the room, Emma excused herself. "I think I need to take a shower and unwind," she said, trying to brush off her anxiety. As the hot water rained over her, her thoughts wandered back to the ominous woman and the figure she had seen. What did she mean by misfortune? Emma wondered to herself, her heart still racing. She vowed to keep her eyes open, questioning just how much she truly knew about her new neighborhood. The apartment may have looked cozy and inviting on the outside, but she learned quickly that some places held secrets, and mastering the art of vigilance in a new city might just be the key to her survival. Little did she know, her housemate had secrets of her own. As the night went on, the shadows lurked closer, and Emma's journey had only just begun. As Emma stepped out of the shower, she wrapped herself in a towel and caught a glimpse of her reflection in the bathroom mirror. The steam had fogged up the glass, creating an eerie atmosphere that added to her mounting unease. She took a deep breath, reminding herself that she was here to study and make new friends, not to let fears consume her. Returning to the room, she found Sarah and John still deep in conversation, the tension from earlier seemingly forgotten. "Hey, Emma. Come join us. We were just discussing our plans for the weekend," Sarah cheerfully called. Emma smiled weakly, grateful for the distraction. "What do you guys have in mind?" "We're thinking of exploring downtown. There's a street fair happening, and it could be fun," John said, his enthusiasm evident. "Sounds great. I could use some fresh air and some excitement. Maybe it'll help take my mind off things," Emma replied, attempting to shake off the lingering dread. "Perfect. We can pay a visit to that old bookstore I told you about, Sarah suggested, her eyes sparkling with excitement. They say that it's haunted, but I think it's just a myth. Great, just what I need, more ghost stories. Emma chuckled nervously, though the thought of an adventure began to lift her spirits. After a quick dinner, the trio started to plan their weekend while Emma felt a bit lighter. Yet, deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off in their surroundings. That night, after she climbed into bed, Emma was restless. Shadows danced on the walls, and the eerie silence of the apartment made her acutely aware of every creak and sigh of the building. Unable to sleep, she decided to read one of her textbooks. She flipped through the pages, but her mind was elsewhere, enveloped in thoughts of the woman at the store and the strange figure she had seen earlier. Just as the words began to blur together, a distant sound echoed in the hallway. A soft tapping at the main door. Emma pulled her blankets around her, straining to listen. "Is that knocking?" she whispered to herself. The tapping persisted, dropping her stomach into a pit of worry. Would it be the strange figure she had seen earlier? Would it be them again? She gathered her courage and peered through the door's peephole. Initially, there was nothing. However, just as she began to step back, she caught a fleeting image, a shadow-like figure disappearing down the hallway. Heart racing, she called out, "Sarah? John? Are you guys awake?" There was silence followed by the sound of a door creaking open. "What's wrong, Emma?" John's voice came from his room, sounding groggy and slightly annoyed. "I thought I heard knocking." "I'm not feeling great about this place right now," Emma admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "Just give it a moment. It could be the wind or someone just wandering around. You know how these old buildings are." John reassured her, though she could hear the skepticism in his tone. With a resigned sigh, she climbed back into bed. Just as she was about to close her eyes, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Sarah read, "Everything okay? Can't sleep either. Look out for the weirdos, winky face." Emma smiled slightly despite her nerves. She replied, "Not at all. Heard a knocking at the door. Maybe we should keep the doors locked tonight?" "Good idea. Let's stick together tomorrow. This city might have some surprises for us," came Sarah's response. Feeling slightly comforted but still anxious, Emma finally drifted into a light sleep, though her dreams were filled with cloudy images of shadows and frightful whispers. The next day, Emma, Sarah, and John met in the morning for breakfast at a nearby cafe. While they discussed plans for the street fair, Emma decided to inquire further about their building. "Have you guys ever heard any weird stories from our neighbors?" Emma asked, trying to sound casual. "I've heard a couple of things," John said, leaning back in his chair. "Apparently, the landlord bought this place at a bargain price because of the rumors. They say it's haunted, but it's probably just local folklore." "What kind of folklore?" Emma pressed. "Well, there are reports of strange occurrences, like sudden cold spots in rooms, things moving when no one's around, and shadows passing by windows at night. Nothing too serious, just typical urban legends," John shrugged, taking a sip of coffee. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. It seemed like there was more to the building than met the eye. After breakfast, they set out to explore. They strolled through the fair, which was vibrant with music, street performers, and colorful booths offering all sorts of food. Emma tried to forget her worries, focusing on the cheerful atmosphere. As they walked, Emma noticed a quaint old bookstore tucked in an alley. "Hey! Let's check that place out," she suggested, pointing towards the faded sign. "Sure. They say it has an extensive collection of rare books." I hope they have some interesting finds," Sarah replied excitedly. As they stepped into the dimly lit shop, the scent of aged paper engulfed them. Dust motes floated lazily in the air, swirling around like spirits drawn to the light streaming through the windows. Rows of books lined the shelves, and an elderly man stood behind the counter, his spectacles perched at the end of his nose. "Welcome. You look like my kind of customers," he said with a warm smile. "Feel free to browse, but be careful on the upper floor, the stairs can be tricky." Emma exchanged glances with Sarah and John and headed toward the back where a staircase led to the second floor. The wooden steps creaked underfoot, producing rhythmic echoes that added to the enchanting ambience of the store. As they reached the top, Emma discovered that the room was filled with an eclectic mix of old and new books. The walls were lined with dark wood shelves loaded with tomes that seemed to whisper stories long forgotten. "You two look intrigued by something," John said, gazing at a large leather-bound book resting on a pedestal. "It almost seems like it's calling me," Emma whispered, stepping closer to the book. As her fingers brushed against the cover, she felt a strange tug in her chest, an inexplicable urge to open it. "Don't do it. There's probably some curse that comes with opening a creepy old book." Sarah laughed, but Emma felt compelled to disregard her words as she lifted the cover. The pages were filled with delicate writing and sketches that depicted the town's history, though one page in particular caught her attention. It detailed the original owners of the building, mentioning mysterious disappearances that had occurred decades prior. As her eyes scanned the text, she felt as though the atmosphere shifted. A peculiar chill raced through the air, and Emma could hear an indistinct whisper. "You must leave this place. They are watching." "Emma, what's wrong?" John's voice broke through her trance. I don't know. I feel strange," she trembled, closing the book as the whispers faded away. "Let's get out of here," Sarah urged, her face pale as she clutched onto Emma's arm. They hurried back downstairs, Emma's heart pounding. The strange fallacy of the book was prickling at her mind. As they exited the store, Emma took one last look at the worn sign, certain that she had stumbled upon something much darker than just local legend. That evening, back in the apartment, Emma couldn't shake off the tension. They had returned from the fair, filled with laughter and excitement, but the feeling of dread clung to her. "Maybe we should have a little get-together with the neighbors, get to know who we're living with," Sarah suggested, trying to lighten the mood. Emma hesitated, remembering the odd warning from the woman in the store. "Are you sure that's a good idea? We barely know them." John, ever the joker, chimed in, "Come on. What's the worst that could happen? Maybe we'll even get some ghost stories." Emma shot him a look. The light-hearted banter felt inappropriate given the weight of her experience. "It's not just a ghost story for me, John. It feels more real and dangerous. We'll just hang out and share some snacks. It'll be fun. Trust me." Sarah insisted, her excitement infectious. Reluctantly, Emma agreed, and they spent the next couple of hours busying themselves with preparations. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows into the apartment, Emma couldn't shake a sense of foreboding. They set up snacks in the common room and knocked on a few neighboring doors, inviting everyone to join them for the evening. One by one, faces began to appear, some friendly, others guarded. As more people filed in, the sense of camaraderie grew, but deep within, Emma could feel the specter of doubt. The laughter rang hollow in her ears, overshadowed by her fears. Finally, Emma found herself alone in the kitchen, pouring drinks when she felt an unsettling presence. She turned, and to her astonishment, the woman from the convenience store stood in the doorway, her expression grave. "Emma," she said, voice low. "You shouldn't have come here. They're watching you." You need to leave before it's too late. Emma's heart sank as she faced the ghostly figure. What do you mean? Who's watching me? Emma questioned, panic rising in her chest. The shadows in this building are not just rumors. They thrive on the fears of the living. You can't stay here, the woman urged before vanishing into thin air. Frozen, every hair on Emma's body stood on end. She took a deep breath and returned to the common room, the reality of her situation beginning to sink in like a heavy weight. The laughter and conversations continued, but the words felt distant, and Emma's heart raced as she contemplated her next move. She had to find answers. As she glanced around the room, she could see shadows moving ever so slightly, their shapes tightening and stretching, lingering just out of reach. The atmosphere thickened, and Emma could feel the eyes of something unseen watching her every move. Guys, I think we need to talk about the stories of this building, Emma finally whispered, the urgency climbing in her voice. Sure, but let's save the ghost stories for the spooky season. Sarah laughed, misinterpreting Emma's tone. No, I'm serious. I spoke to the woman from the market. She warned me about something sinister. Emma declared, pulling the attention of the room. A hush fell over the gathering as confused expressions spread across the guests' faces. Are you kidding? You're starting to sound paranoid, one neighbor, Mark, scoffed, rolling his eyes. This is just an apartment. You're letting your imagination run wild, another added. However, there was something in Emma's demeanor that made Sarah pause, her smile fading. Okay, Emma. Whatever you're sensing, is there anything we can do? I don't know yet, but maybe we need to figure out our own history here. Perhaps we can reach out to the others who have lived here before. We may uncover more mysteries than we bargained for, Emma continued, willing to steer her friends towards the truth. With resolve, she knew that though she may feel like she was walking in darkness, she would illuminate the shadows that had found their way into her life. Let's gather as many stories as we can. The only way to confront fears is to face them head-on, Emma declared, her voice firm with newfound determination. And so, amid laughter and games, the seeds of their journey were planted. They would dig deeper, into the past of the building, and unearth what secrets lay hidden within the walls they now called home. Little did they know, the shadows moved closer already, eager to keep their secrets buried in darkness. The following days found a mix of excitement and trepidation in Emma's heart. With her friends alongside her, she began to assemble a plan. They would unearth the history of their apartment building and the neighborhood, seeking out the stories that had shaped it. The whispers she had heard, the eerie warnings, and the mysterious encounters fueled her determination. After all, knowledge is power, and it was time to face the shadows. Let's hit the library first, Sarah suggested over breakfast one morning. They should have records and possibly even newspapers from when the building was first constructed. If there's anything strange about this place, I bet it'll be in there. Emma nodded. Great idea. We can find out who lived here before us and what happened to them. John, looking both skeptical and intrigued, added, and we can see if they have any city records. Maybe we'll discover more about the misfortunes mentioned by that woman. With their mission set, the trio made their way to the Springfield Public Library, a grand old building that seemed to be untouched by time. High ceilings and dark wood furnishings surrounded them, creating an almost sacred atmosphere filled with the scent of old books and polished surfaces. The trio split to scour for information, with Emma heading toward the local history section. She dove into stacks of dusty volumes, balancing the weight of countless years' worth of stories. As she turned the pages of old newspapers, she became engrossed in tales of the past, births, deaths, and, more troubling, several unexplained disappearances linked to their very building. Here it is, She called to Sarah and John as she flanked through a newspaper article dated over 40 years ago. It reported hauntings in a little-known apartment complex on Maple Street, detailing odd occurrences and enigmatic events that had frightened previous tenants. A resident went missing without a trace? John asked, coming closer, intrigued as he peered over her shoulder. Yes. It mentions a young woman, a university student much like us. They said she was last seen leaving for class and never returned, Emma explained, her voice hushed. Sarah glanced at the next column, her expression turning serious. It says the locals believe the building was built on cursed land, she murmured, her brows knitting together. People claimed it was a place of tragedy. Feeling alive with a mixture of fear and excitement, Emma brushed aside a few more dusty volumes and retrieved a handful of equally eerie records. She found mentions of strange shadows reported in the hallways, unexplained cold drafts, and neighbors whispering about peculiar sounds echoing through empty rooms. This is starting to feel unsettling, Emma admitted as they gathered more articles detailing uncanny incidents connected to the apartments, tales of discontent among the residents who had come and gone through the years. They spent hours poring over information, gathering snippets of gossip from archive papers, and even speaking with the library staff, who, despite appearing helpful, also seemed hesitant when they asked about the building. After a few hours, a dedicated librarian named Miss Henderson approached. She had eavesdropped slightly and, catching the trio mid-discussion about the apartment, cleared her throat. Excuse me, I hope you don't mind me intruding, but I overheard you discussing the Maple Street complex? Emma nodded, sensing genuine concern in Miss Henderson's eyes. Just be cautious. That building carries a lot of history. Not all of it is pleasant, Miss Henderson warned, glancing around as if ensuring no one else could hear. There are stories of a presence that lingers. I suggest you stay vigilant. Not everything tied to that place could be what it seems. Thank you for the warning. Emma replied appreciatively. That's why we're digging into its history. We want to know what's real and what's not. With newfound motivation, the group left the library, each feeling oddly charged by the legacy of their home. The flow of energy between them was palpable as they exchanged speculations and theories about who or what might inhabit the shadows. That evening, they regrouped with a newfound determination to confront the unknown. Emma suggested they reach out to some current or former tenants who might have more insights. John made a few phone calls, and soon a small list emerged. Let's invite a few of them over for dinner tomorrow night. We can ask questions and maybe get them talking, Sarah proposed excitedly. Good idea. But let's ensure we prepare some soothing food. We don't want to scare anyone off. John laughed, ensuring a light-hearted atmosphere remained. The next evening, they transformed their common room into a welcoming space, arranging chairs and preparing a feast of pasta, garlic bread, and salad. Emma even baked a cake for dessert, hoping it would encourage a relaxed vibe, laughter resonating over an amped-up sense of curiosity. As their guests arrived, the mood became vibrant. There were several incredibly diverse characters hailing from all corners of life, each bringing their unique energy into the small space. Initially, the conversations were light, filled with introductions and small talk. Emma and Sarah shared glances, however, they were waiting, eager for someone to mention the rumors circulating about the building. After an appetizer or two, Emma caught the attention of a woman named Clara, an older resident with a wise sparkle in her eyes. She seemed more than willing to share her experiences in the building. Tell me, what brought you all to Maple Street? Clara asked, a hint of mischief behind her smile. Emma took a deep breath, prepared to dabble into the subject. Well, we've heard some stories. That there have been rumors about odd occurrences. As the words left her lips, an unnerving silence fell across the table. Guests exchanged nervous glances, but Clara remained unfazed. Rumors, she echoed, leaning in closer. Child, I could tell you stories that would curl your hair. But first, what do you want to know? The guests leaned in collectively, the air thick with anticipation, eager to hear what tales Clara had on offer. Why don't we start with the history of the apartment? Emma asked, her heart racing. Clara began her tale, her voice strong and captivating, weaving the narrative of previous tenants who had lived there, shadows of their own stories spilling into reality. Many have walked through these doors looking for sanctuary, Clara explained, her tone shifting. But it's said that once you enter, some never really leave. It's as if they become part of the building itself. With that, she shared stories of residents who, too curious for their own good, had tried to unveil the mysteries that lingered in the corners of the building. Some had experienced unsettling occurrences, like hearing voices calling their names when no one else was present or witnessing figures move from the corner of their eyes. And the disappearances? Sarah pressed, her face pale as Clara continued. It's believed that these spirits were once very much alive, only to lose themselves to the darkness that pervaded this place, Clara recounted somberly, lowering her voice as if bringing weight to the words. Those who come here must tread carefully, they may find truths that could haunt them for eternity. As Clara spoke, Emma felt a chill rush down her spine. The stories painted a canvas of the unknown, intertwining tragedy and foreboding into her very thoughts. Still, she sensed a flicker of hope, a feeling that perhaps they could confront these mysteries together. Do you see any spirits now? John asked, trying to lighten the mood but sensing the sincerity behind his question. Clara chuckled lightly, every once in a while, yes. Perhaps a few in this very room. The laughter that followed felt uncomfortable, a nervous chuckle ringing around the group until Sarah interjected. Seriously, though. How can we address the presence? Is there anything we can do? That depends, Clara replied, her expression turning serious once again. Some believe you must confront the shadows, others trust in cleansing rituals. You must find what resonates with your spirit. But be warned, you might awaken something you are not prepared for. Emma locked eyes with Sarah, her heart racing. They were meant to take on the shadows, but could they truly handle what lay beneath the surface? Their new friends shared varying stories, eliciting different emotional responses among the gathered group. As the night wore on, the laughter remained thin and dipped between occasional gasps of awe, curiosity, and approaches to tales shared with cautionary tones. Eventually, heavy-eyed and introspective, Clara stood up to leave. Just remember, children, the past won't always stay buried. Sometimes, it's more than just echoes, it's a warning, waiting for someone brave enough to face it. She left with a knowing nod, and the air felt charged as the remaining guests retreated into hushed conversations. Emma sensed an undeniable shift, something was happening, something was awakening. As the clock struck midnight, shadows flickered in the corners of the room, and Emma was left with an unsettling choice. They could either confront the darkness that had lingered or allow it to weave deeper into their lives, a decision that hung in the air as thick and dense as the fog outside their window. They gathered their thoughts, knowing that more was at play than they could understand, but together, they were willing to unveil the secrets of Maple Street, no matter the cost. As the clock ticked into the early hours of the morning, Emma lay in bed, her mind racing from the interplay of stories and warnings shared throughout the night. Clara's cryptic words echoed in her mind, warning of shadows and suggesting that the past was not merely a collection of memories but served as a living entity, an entity with the power to reach out to the present. Emma turned over, watching the shadows cast by the intermittent streetlights filtering through her window. Her heartbeat drummed like a war cry in her ears, urging her to confront the unknown. For too long, the tales had lurked in the corners of her consciousness, mere whispers of discomfort. She felt an unquenchable curiosity simmering within her. Perhaps it was time not only to understand her environment but to become its guardian. The next day, with a surge of newfound determination, Emma gathered Sarah and John over breakfast. "We need to pay attention to what Clara said," she stated earnestly. "If she's right, we can't just sit idly by. We should attempt to confront our fears and maybe draw those shadows into the light." Sarah chewed pensively on a piece of toast, glancing across the table. "What do you have in mind? Do you really think that confronting whatever is out there will change anything?" "I don't know, but I've got a feeling we should investigate the building's past during the day," Emma replied. "We can look through old records, talk to anyone who remembers the history, and maybe even visit places the original tenants frequented. We might uncover something that can help." John nodded, a matching sense of seriousness enveloping him. "Okay. I'm in. Let's gather as much information as we can. If there's something dark lurking, we need to arm ourselves with knowledge." After breakfast, they prepared for their trek into the neighborhood, armed with notebooks, cameras, and a sense of purpose. The first stop was a local historical museum known for having archives related to the town's past. It was a charming old building adorned with ivy and retro signage, hinting at the stories encapsulated within its walls. Upon entering, they were greeted by the friendly face of a curator named Mrs. Thompson, who seemed delighted to assist them with their inquiries. "Hello, young scholars. What brings you to our museum today?" she asked cheerfully. Emma stepped forward, her heart racing. "We're hoping to learn about the history of Maple Street and specifically about the apartment building there." Mrs. Thompson's expression changed subtly, a flicker of recognition crossing her face. "Ah, that building. Yes, there have been tales, some rather spooky. Why do you wish to know about it?" "We want to understand everything that has happened there," Sarah chimed in. "There are rumors of strange occurrences, disappearances, and even ghost stories." "Ah, the ghost stories," Mrs. Thompson mused, her eyes glinting. "Gather around, and I might have just the thing for you." Leading them into a modest back room filled with files and dusty books, she pulled out an aged ledger. "This contains records of incidents reported at that complex since its establishment. It's certainly interesting reading, but I must warn you, the truth may be more than you are prepared to handle." With anticipation coursing through them, the trio settled down to browse through the files. Each account added pieces to a puzzle that grew murkier as time went on. Emma copied notes hurriedly, absorbing everything she read. The entries covered decades of strange events. Lighting flickering when no one was present, unexplained cold drafts in certain rooms, and the peculiar sightings of figures walking the halls. As they delved deeper, they uncovered a recurring name, Elizabeth Dawson, the student who vanished over 40 years earlier. The records included articles depicting her as a bright young woman, full of dreams and aspirations. Yet, it appeared as though she vanished during her last semester at the university. Suddenly, John gasped, interrupting Emma's thoughts. "Look! There's a recent note here, a police report from a missing persons case. It was filed last month for a girl who was living in the same apartment." He pointed excitedly at the red scribbled entries dated just weeks earlier. "What?" Sarah leaned in closer, her excitement turning to concern. "Do they mention her name?" "No name, just a vague description. It talks about how she was last seen leaving for class one early evening. Could it be a coincidence?" John's expression darkened. "Or perhaps a chilling pattern," Emma murmured, feeling her blood run cold. "We need to take this information back, and we should talk to the neighbors again." This was no simple coincidence. That evening, they gathered in the common room, determination etched across their faces. Emma could feel an energy in the air, something drawn to their collective anxiety and resolve. "I figured we should share what we discovered today," Emma said, gathering everyone's attention who were still present from their earlier get-together. The three sat together, facing their audience, feeling the palpable tension build in the air. Clara returned, this time, her aura more solemn than before. The moment Emma spoke, Clara's expression changed, as if she was immediately drawn to the gravity of their findings. "There's a real darkness there, isn't there?" Clara finally murmured. "What do you mean?" Emma pressed. "I can feel it. This building, it has its secrets, and they're viscerally entwined with the souls that have been lost. You've all felt the strangeness, haven't you?" she said, visibly agitated. "Sometimes, memories linger and trap themselves into the fabric of a place." Emma hesitated to voice her fears. "We found records of someone who went missing just last month. It's as if history is repeating itself." The room fell silent, the air thickened as Clara looked around at the group. "You all have a greater purpose for being here. There is something destined for you. But be warned, those shadows feast on uncertainty. Beware crossing their paths unprepared." As the night wore on, whispers filled their conversations, sharing their experiences, each recounting feelings of being watched or sensing something dwelling just out of sight. Each echo added urgency to Emma's conviction. They needed to act. "Tomorrow, let's begin a search for Elizabeth. We can investigate places she was known to visit. Her friends, her favorite spots. If we can connect with her spirit or find out what happened, we might just unravel this dark thread," Emma suggested, her determination igniting. The group nodded, brimming with a mix of trepidation and excitement. They would gather more pieces of the puzzle, tracing the path that Elizabeth walked long ago. The next day, sunlight poured into the apartment, chasing away the shadows and filling Emma with determination as they ventured out. They loaded into John's car, ready to take on their first destination, the local coffee shop where Elizabeth once worked. Tucked away in a cozy corner of Springfield, the cafe was bustling with activity. The smell of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air, but the aroma felt heavy with ghosts of the past as they approached the counter. Sarah asked the barista if she recognized anyone from the old photos they had collected. "Elizabeth?" "Yes," the barista said, brightening. "She was such a sweet girl. She worked here for a while but disappeared suddenly. Kind of shocked us all. What can you tell us about her?" Emma pressed. "We're hoping to find out what happened." The barista leaned against the counter. She was well-liked, loved making connections with customers, and she had this spark about her. But she seemed burdened toward the end, always stirring in thought. Then one evening, she just didn't show up for her shift. No one ever saw her afterwards. Emma's heart sank. "Did anyone report anything strange? Did she mention anything that seemed odd to you?" The weirdest thing was when she was here a couple of weeks before she went missing. She claimed she had started hearing voices, whispers while working late shifts. "We all wrote it off as stress, but after hearing the news, it still gives me chills," the barista said, a look of sadness creeping into her eyes. "What kind of voices?" John asked seriously, capturing the mood of the moment. Like calling her name, pleading for her attention, the barista replied softly, her brow furrowing at the memory. It was like someone was beckoning her. Chills ran down Emma's spine, realizing how closely this mirrored her own experiences. "Thank you for talking to us," she said. "We need to find a way to connect with her spirit." As they left, Sarah turned to Emma. "Maybe we should try to contact her? A seance or something like that?" "Good idea," Emma replied. "We could gather more details on what happened to her and give her a chance to tell her story." Perhaps in doing so, we can uncover the truth behind the shadows that have latched onto our lives. Their next destination led them to Elizabeth's college, where she had spent her days studying. Once on campus, they began to ask fellow students if they remembered her, searching for any form of contact with the past. Most students recalled stories of Elizabeth's kindness or her passion for the arts, how she invested herself deeply in her studies, aiming for a bright future. Yet, as the stories piled up, they began to hear murmurs of her descent into overwhelming anxiety. Elizabeth had been under academic stress, feeling trapped and pressured to succeed. It painted a hollow picture that left Emma increasingly frustrated as the puzzle felt incomplete. That evening, the trio gathered at their apartment, the walls heavy with memories of the stories they had uncovered. Drawing in deep breaths, they decided to host a séance of their own. With candles flickering, they formed a circle in the common room, dimming the lights. "Tonight is our chance to connect with Elizabeth," Emma explained. "The past can open pathways to clarity." They began by lighting candles and using a small crystal Sarah had found, setting the intention for Elizabeth to guide them. "Elizabeth Dawson, if you can hear us, show yourself," Emma said softly, feeling a tug of hope in the air. As they shut their eyes and focused, she recited the mantra repeatedly. For a moment, the silence thickened, and the room felt charged with energy. Slowly, they started to feel an overwhelming presence, almost as though something stirred in the air. But suddenly, the temperature dropped. Emma's heart raced as the candles flickered violently, casting erratic shadows against the walls. "Ask her questions," Sarah urged, shaking slightly. "Elizabeth, are you with us?" Emma pushed, her voice trembling. In that moment, a rush of wind sent a chill through the room, extinguishing one of the candles, plunging them into darkness. "Stay calm. Focus," John called out, gripping Emma's arm. A faint whisper echoed through the air, dancing around their ears, calling out a name, "Ma. Did you hear that?" Sarah's voice quivered, but hope burned in her words. "Who are you?" Emma asked, heart racing relentlessly. "I was wronged," the wind rippled softly around the room, almost pleading, as if needing to be heard. "Elizabeth?" Emma gasped, warmth rushing through her as she received a response. "We're here to help you. Help us understand." The room fell silent, the last candle trembling. Something slipped into their hearts. They sensed an overwhelming sorrow, a darkness filled with grief. "Show us what happened. Why did you leave?" John chimed in. The energy surged back. Suddenly, wardrobe doors began to creak. Books began to topple, flickering lights danced in a choreographed symphony of chaos. "Open your eyes," Sarah shouted, barely hanging on to her poise. Emma pulled away from the circle, wide-eyed, barely able to grasp the haunt. "No. Please, Elizabeth, we want to help." The shadows solidified at the edges of their perception, rustling, whispering, growing increasingly aggressive. The atmosphere thickened to the point that breathing became a chore, tightening around their lungs. With a final poignant whisper, a vision filled Emma's mind. There in a flash, she saw fragmented memories of Elizabeth's last moments, a glimpse of her running through the neighboring park, frightened, followed by something dark, something hungry that sought to consume her. Suddenly, the energy erupted, a crash echoed in the stillness, and the weight of the shadows pressed down until it left them gasping. As the presence grew less chaotic, Emma realized something. Elizabeth had been calling out not only for help, but also to seek closure. The shadows were hungry for pain and despair but ultimately needed to resolve their entanglement to reclaim peace. After the séance, the atmosphere felt charged yet strangely lighter, as if tablets had been removed from the room. They collected their breaths, leaning against the walls as they released the tension that had gripped them. "I think we need to find a way to give Elizabeth a proper goodbye," Emma said finally. "Whatever happened to her needs to be resolved. It's the only way the shadows can let go." "But how?" Sarah questioned, her face pinched with worry. "We have to find whatever she left behind, the clues to her fears and pain. We might have some belongings around the building or in the park nearby that can help," Emma responded, her determination shining through their shared exhaustion. Little did they know that the deeper they delved into Elizabeth's tragedy, the more tangled their own destinies would become. As they prepared to trace the path of the past, the shadows that had been watching, lurking just beyond the edges, watched them closely, ready for whatever journey lay ahead. The following morning welcomed Emma and her friends with a sense of renewed purpose, a determination ignited within them to seek closure for Elizabeth's haunting story. After a quick breakfast, they gathered their supplies, excitement mixing with apprehension as they set out on their journey to uncover the lost remnants of her past. "Let's start at the park she visited," Emma suggested, consulting a hastily sketched map that the barista had shared with them. "The one near the cafe. Perhaps it holds some significance or traces of her presence." "Right. We need to cover as much ground as possible before dark," Sarah replied, a flicker of resolve in her eyes. As they arrived at Jefferson Park, the sun cast a warm glow over the lush greenery, the soft rustle of leaves offering a stark contrast to the heavy weight of their mission. The park teemed with life. Families picnicking, children playing, and joggers taking in the serene surroundings, blissfully unaware of the darkness that had lingered here. Emma felt a surge of energy as they entered, looking for signs, any trace hinting at Elizabeth's last moments. As they walked further into the park, they approached a secluded area draped under the shade of sprawling oak trees, casting a cool respite from the sunlight. Emma surveyed the surroundings, trying to picture Elizabeth sitting there, lost in thought, perhaps wrestling with her own concerns. "Do you think she came here to escape?" John mused, examining the surroundings. "To find solace from her studies and pressures?" "Possibly," Emma replied, her heart heavy with empathy. "But something must have disturbed her that day. We need to see if anything can guide us to uncover what she was going through." They split up to cover more ground, each taking a different section of the park. Emma told herself that in doing this, they would piece together Elizabeth's story, perhaps learning lessons from her struggles and ultimately providing her with the closure she desperately needed. As she strolled along a shaded path, Emma stumbled upon a weathered bench half hidden by overgrown grass. The wood looked old and cracked, and she was drawn toward it instantly. With a sense of determination, she brushed away the twigs and leaves to get a clearer look. "Kneel with me," Emma called out to Sarah and John, who rushed over as she knelt beside the bench. "What do you think about this?" Carved into the wooden armrest were the letters ED, intertwined with a heart and the faint outlines of a date they could barely discern. "Could this be Elizabeth's?" Sarah asked, her eyes shining with realization. "It's possible. If she carved this, it might mean this bench was a special spot for her," Emma said, excitement bubbling away her previous worries. "Maybe we can look around for more clues." Their search continued intermittently, uncovering bits and pieces, a discarded notebook filled with fraying pages, some of which contained Elizabeth's frenzied writings. The entries depicted her strive for perfect grades, the constant anxiety clawing at her mind, and vague references to feeling watched, as if someone, or something, was keeping tabs on her. "We have to keep this. It's like a diary of her struggles," John exclaimed, carefully handling the fragile notebook as he rifled through. They devoured the words, absorbing her turmoil, fearing for her plight as they grasped the stress Elizabeth faced. "Look at this." Sarah pointed to a passage that sent shivers down Emma's spine. She wrote about hearing something, whispers that seemed to call her name. "Look here," it says, "if I can't escape, how can I not listen? I fear what awaits me if I do." The gravity of her words sank like a stone in Emma's stomach. What did she mean? Did she feel trapped by something or someone? Unease settled over them as they sifted through more pages, discovering one significant note that floored them entirely. It detailed an encounter she had one evening as she sat on this very bench. Elizabeth mentioned a figure lingering in the distance, a shadow that warped with the light. Her words grew more frantic as she described a sensation that rooted her in place as if drawn to the shadows that stretched out toward her. "I can't believe she felt such dread," Emma murmured, a wave of sorrow washing over her. She was so alone in her fear, and it turned into something bigger, something darker. Realizing that they had stumbled upon something profound, they gathered around the bench, the severity of their search driving deeper into their hearts. They understood more than ever that they had to help Elizabeth find peace, both for themselves and for her restless spirit. "Let's do what we can to ensure she knows she's not alone anymore," Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion. "We need to show her that we care about her story, that we want to remember her." As they stood beside the carved bench, Emma took a deep breath. "To honor her, we should create a small memorial here with her diary, some flowers, and anything else we can find that speaks to her life. We'll show her that her story matters." Even in the face of adversity, they carried out their plan. Emma gathered wildflowers scattered across the park, woven together with handwritten notes of encouragement and admiration for Elizabeth's bravery. Sarah tied them together with a ribbon she had in her bag. With their tribute done, they placed the bouquet and the diary carefully beside the weathered bench, whispering prayers into the gentle breeze. Emma closed her eyes and could almost feel a presence, a soft touch, like a breath of relief, as if Elizabeth was thanking them for remembering. "Let's gather here in a few days," Emma proposed. "This can be our spot for reflection, and we can check if we feel her presence on certain days." The others agreed wholeheartedly. They couldn't help but share in a newfound bond, a connection that transcended the temporal barriers between them and Elizabeth. And with this memorial, they sensed the weight of the darkness lifting slightly, like a fog dissipating in the morning light. As the days passed, Emma, Sarah, and John formed new routines. They continued their investigation into the shadows surrounding the building, vowing to document their findings and seek more truth. Clarifying Elizabeth's narrative provided them all a purpose, intertwining their fates with hers even deeper. They frequently gathered at the bench, taking turns sitting and reflecting. Each visit brought with it whispers of consolation, a feather-like touch that gave them hope. They decided to host a small gathering at the bench, inviting neighbors to come share memories of Elizabeth, create more connections, and discuss the building's past. "Perhaps if we make it an event, we can inspire more people to remember her," Emma declared, her excitement palpable. "Yes. Let's call it a reunion for Elizabeth. A chance to reconstruct stories, bring light to the shadows, and pay respect to those who have experienced similar fates." Sarah agreed, clapping her hands. But as the reunion approached, Emma began waking from dreams filled with uncertainty. Elizabeth appeared, her visage a fleeting memory woven in silk threads. Soft whispers surrounded her like a gentle tide, urging Emma to remember that Elizabeth still sought recognition, and something lingered on. On the eve of the event, Emma gathered her thoughts and returned to the bench once more, the cool evening air lingering around her as she sat alone. She closed her eyes, recalling every fragment of Elizabeth's story they had gathered. "Elizabeth, if you can hear me, we are ready to honor you. Please let us know how we can help, how we can shed light on the shadows," she whispered, her heart open to the spirit that had traversed through so many lives. In the silence, she felt something shift around her, the shadows in the park swayed as if alive. A sudden rustle in the bushes startled her, but when she turned sharply, it was just the wind playing tricks. Yet that evening, the shadows began to gather, moving based on unseen forces, drawing closer to Emma. She felt the weight of their expectant gaze pressing down upon her, and instinctively, she knew, they wanted her to remember. They wanted her to find the truth. Emma stood up, her heart pounding fiercely, uncertain yet strangely determined. She needed to confront the depths of what she had unearthed, to discern the messages that the spirits around her were conveying. Tomorrow will be the day of remembering, of connection, she whispered, her voice steady. I will not retreat, I will find the light required to bring you peace. As she walked back home, a relentless determination surged through her veins. The shadows followed closely, drawing nearer, yet she understood now. They were messengers of the past, tired souls needing their voices acknowledged, their stories shared. With their unyielding presence, there was hope intertwined with the ominous. Emma felt ready. The path to understanding was unfolding before her, leading to encounters far deeper than they had yet encountered. Together, beneath the shadowed sky and the watchful stars, she would unveil the truths they all sought. And maybe, just maybe, she would be the one to light the way. The day of the reunion for Elizabeth dawned bright and clear. Emma could feel an electrifying energy in the air as she awoke that morning, her heart racing with anticipation for the gathering. Today was not merely about sharing memories, it was about binding threads of the past into a fabric of understanding and light. Sarah and John joined her early in the morning to help set up the area around the bench where they had laid their tribute. Colorful banners fluttered in the gentle breeze, adorned with words like, remember, and reflect, while a long table was filled with flowers, candles, and several copies of Elizabeth's diary, for others to read. As people began to arrive, the atmosphere shifted with palpable excitement and curiosity. Friends, neighbors, and newcomers formed a small crowd, each contributing their own stories and memories. Emma glanced around, feeling a rush of gratitude for everyone who had come together for this purpose, and for the support they were offering one another. Thank you all for being here, Emma said, standing in front of the gathered crowd as they settled around the bench. Today, we are not only honoring Elizabeth Dawson, a bright young woman whose life was tragically cut short, but we are also acknowledging the struggles that many of us may face. Let's create space for reflection, support, and understanding. Applause erupted amidst the crowd, and the warmth of their unity wrapped around Emma like a comforting embrace. The event unfolded with storytelling sessions interspersed with moments of silence. People shared tales of their encounters with Elizabeth, reminisced about her kindness, her dreams, and her spirit, her laughter dancing like sunlight on the surface of a pond. As memories poured forth, Emma felt a heavy weight on her heart gradually lift. The shadows that had once darkened their path seemed to dissipate, replaced by bonds of camaraderie coalescing in the air. Do you remember her smile? One neighbor said, a tear escaping his eye. She had the brightest smile, even during challenging times. It lit up the room. Exactly. She took the time to brighten our days, and I never took the chance to thank her, another neighbor added, her voice wavering with emotion. Now, I wish I could tell her how much she meant to me. However, as they continued, Emma felt a persistent chill creep back into the air. It began as a light breeze but gradually thickened, saturating the space with an unsettling energy. Whispers floated through the crowd, eerily echoing the sentiments expressed throughout the reunion, confessions of fear, stress, and the burdens that came with strong expectations. Why do we feel so heavy? Emma whispered to Sarah, who stood beside her, her brow furrowed with concern. I don't know. It's like the very air is charged, Sarah replied, her voice tight with unease. I wonder if Elizabeth is feeling how much we care, or if these shadows feel threatened. John perked up, overhearing their discussion. You think she might be detached from the light? Like, maybe she hasn't fully moved on yet? Emma nodded, trying to cut through the haze that threatened to cloud their solemn gathering. What if Elizabeth does not feel like her story is complete? We've come together to empower her memory, yet it's as if the shadows are stealing the energy. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the park, cutting through their conversation. The candles flickered, threatening to extinguish, and the atmosphere thickened with tension. Emma glanced toward the shadows gathering near the edges of the park, and her heart raced. Everyone, listen. Emma took a step forward, raising her voice. In honoring Elizabeth, we need to invoke her spirit. We need to reach out and ensure she knows she's safe with us. She deserves to feel loved and acknowledged. With her heart pounding, she began to recite aloud a message she had written earlier that morning. Elizabeth Dawson, we are gathered here to lift your spirit, to honor your journey and to create light out of darkness. You are not forgotten, and today, we stand together as a community to acknowledge your strength and courage. As she spoke, the shadows appeared to shift and swirl, the breeze picking up once more, swirling their quiet chaos around the gathering. Emma felt the resonance of her words, echoing between the unsurpassed affection and sadness within the hearts of those who listened. The energy felt alive, urging her forward. Let us send her our love and respect, letting every candle here be a beacon in the dark, Emma continued, her voice steady and determined. Let our words carry her home, releasing her from the chains of sorrow that have tied her spirit down. As if responding to their call, the wind whipped fiercely, the atmosphere electrified with anticipation. The candles flickered almost violently, and the crowd stood poised, feeling the laden hearts of spirits waiting to be acknowledged and freed. We can do this together. If we all focus on one shared truth, the knowledge that Elizabeth is still with us, that she deserves our light, then maybe we will help her find peace. Just then, Elizabeth's name broke out in murmurs among the crowd, and with that invocation, the cold in the air retreated slightly. The shadows, sensing the collective energy of hope, whipped around the gathering as if agitated, yet something changed. Then, as if pulled into the vortex of their wishes, a soft, warm light descended upon the center of the group. It felt ethereal, a gentle glow that shimmered beyond the physical realm. Emma's breath caught in her throat as the whispers began to sort themselves, revealing soft words pleading to be heard. With her heart racing, Emma realized she was not merely speaking to the shadows but also inviting the light of Elizabeth's spirit to join them. Elizabeth, can you see us? Emma cried, feeling the warmth suffusing her very being. Show us you are here. Let us be the vessel to carry your story forward. As if responding directly to her wish, the shadows began to twist and shift, revealing fleeting glimpses of a figure bathed in light, a silhouette of a young woman, ethereal and graceful, floating above them. Emma felt tears in her eyes, a bittersweet blend of grief and joy blooming within her chest. The crowd gasped, their eyes wide as they witnessed the spectral outline materialize, steadying itself and offering a soft, approving nod. Thank you for remembering me, came a whisper, barely audible yet resonating within Emma's heart like a melody. It felt familiar, a voice she longed to hear. Thank you for bringing me back. And just like that, the performance of nature responded in kind. The wind calmed, rhythmic against the stillness as if the world around them paused to acknowledge Elizabeth's return. Each flickering candle burned brighter, devoting their light to the spirit that hovered above them. Together, we will ensure your legacy continues, Emma breathed, feeling empowered. Together, we will help others facing struggles that we can never fully understand. You are not bound to fear anymore. Hesitation melted into acceptance as the ethereal glow grew even brighter, radiating warmth around them. The energy shifted to softness, casting the shadows backward as the spirit lingered, basking in their love. Know that I am with you, the voice carried away on the wind, whispering promises woven into the fabric of light. I feel your love, and it is enough to release me. Thank you for seeing me through to the other side. A wave of relief washed over the gathered crowd. The heaviness of sorrow that had once rested on them dissipated as Elizabeth's message of gratitude resonated deeply, weaving through their hearts. As her spirit began to fade, Emma made an earnest wish. We will carry on your legacy, Elizabeth. We will seek to empower and connect lives to ensure journeys of unseen struggles are acknowledged. And with that, a final soft glow enveloped them, a delicate farewell that brightened their hearts, sending a clear message. Elizabeth had found her peace, and as her spirit departed, the shadows began their retreat. The crowd erupted into joyous applause, tears mingling with laughter as they celebrated the love that had sparked a connection deeper than they'd ever imagined. They had not only honored Elizabeth but also created a tapestry of solidarity that embraced every whisper and shadow existing within themselves. We'll continue this movement. Let Elizabeth be a beacon of hope, Sarah declared, fierce tears of triumph glistening in her eyes. Together, we will ensure no one walks alone in their battles. In that moment, Emma understood the depth of the magic they all possessed, the ability to share empathy and connection, to illuminate the darkest corners, to create genuine change in their lives and the lives of others. As the sun dipped low, casting golden hues across the park, Emma smiled softly, feeling Elizabeth's presence linger, forever entwined with their shared story, a tale of resilience, hope, and the strength derived from love binding together the fabric of life. And so, the shadows receded, leaving only a trail of light to guide them into their new tomorrow.